This is the Sattler Files.
Welcome back to the Sattler Files. This is Murray Korff, and with me is Gavin Simpson. And we talk about all things spiritual, religious, and all sorts of things like that. Welcome, Gavin.
Thanks, Murray. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
We're going to talk a little bit about grieving and stuff like that.
Grieving loss and funerals, yes.
Well, that's something that's going to happen to all of us at some point,
can't
isn't
avoid
it?
it.
What's the old saying? None of us get out of this alive.
No, that's right. Death and taxes are two things you can't avoid.
That's right. So grieving's and is a pretty important part of the whole process of death, isn't it? You know, you've got to be able to grieve and to get over and deal with your feelings.
Yeah, and it's something that we kind of, I suppose, try to be stiff upper lip maybe a little bit about it and pretend it doesn't matter. But when you go to a funeral, it's interesting. I've been to 2 funerals in the last 2 weeks. The first one was kind of a family thing, and I didn't know the person all that well, so it was just like an ordinary funeral. You felt a bit sad, but didn't get too fussed about it. And the second one was yesterday when a very long-time friend of over 30 years died, and it really sort of rocked my world. It was very strange. Yeah, it was strange. And we'd had this very strong friendship, which was an up and down friendship for many times, as Despine would know. He was he could be quite a volatile character.
Right.
And he did have a bit of a habit of speaking his mind when maybe he should have been better off holding his peace.
Perhaps, yes.
So he did kind of have a bit of a habit of falling out with people. But he's still a very strong part of my life, and it was like a whole chunk of my life is now gone. It's hard to describe, really. The good times we had, and it sort of reinforced the fact that they're gone and never going to come back. And while you can think about them, you have a deep sense of loss, which is the first time that's really happened to me. It's quite
right?
strange. Yeah. Even with my parents, it was kind of their time, and I kind of knew that, and so there wasn't that huge wrench. It was very odd.
So this person, was he, in your estimation, too young to have passed?
No, he wasn't. He was 76, but...
Oh, just a minute. I'm 70, and I'm rather hoping that it won't be quite that soon.
No, but we can't say it was an untimely death.
No. Well, that's what I meant. It was a natural causes thing.
Well, no, it was awful.
Was it?
Well, it was natural causes, I suppose, but he was a bit of a drinker, and it was cirrhosis of the liver, and that is a very nasty way to die.
That'll do it. Yeah.
Really, I hadn't realised how horrible it is. So I suppose that was another little added tragedy to the whole thing. But it's interesting, isn't it? I've sort of been someone who's lost patience a bit with people who've gone on grieving for what I consider too long, and I think maybe we all do this. And I even know of people who have lost a parent or something, and they've complained about this parent who's been a real burden on them for years and years and years, and you get sick of hearing about all the complaints.
Yes.
All of a sudden the parent dies, and they're the most fabulous parent in the whole universe. And
what was it? I think it was one of the Kennedys that said, "Do not eulogise my brother in death beyond what he was in life."
Yes, that's right.
I think there's something in that for a lot of people, really.
Yeah,
don't you?
I do. And I think also that apparently I've heard that if you overly grieve, if you can't let it go, it's really a lot to do with guilt, that you didn't really feel you had treated this person as well as you should have while they were here. And so now they're gone, people often have a tremendous sense of guilt and overgrieve, overreact.
Well, Despine tells me that the Greeks grieve for a particular length of time. It's 40 days.
Yeah.
And in 40 days, at the end of that, that's it. You're done. Get back to normal.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing.
Look, I think it probably is in lots of ways, because really it's a useful and, I think not inappropriate amount of time, and you come to the end of it, and it does mark the end of the grieving process, and it's kind of encourages you to say, well, that's it. That's the end of the grieving process. It doesn't diminish its importance, though.
No,
it's because it is so important, particularly for people that you feel close to or have felt close to, and a big part of your life, like your friend. But you still got to do it. It's still got to be there, and it's still got to be something that you use to process the passing of that person.
Yeah, I guess it's a cultural thing, and Australian culture is not good, I don't think, at dealing with death. Other cultures are probably better at it. For one thing, we kind of tend to deny it a lot, and then when it happens, we still kind of deny it in a way. I mean, remember, to go to these, what I regard as ridiculous funeral services where all you do is celebrate the life of the person. Well, you're not there to celebrate that. Well, you are a bit to celebrate the life of the person, but you're there because the person is dead. That's why you're there.
That's right.
And you've got to mark the fact that this person is dead and grieve, I think, instead of, just pretending that's all a big party. I don't think that's the way to go. But I must admit, the two funerals that I went to recently both had silver celebrants, and they really changed my mind about silver celebrants doing funerals because they were both very good and a real sense of occasion and did just as good a job, I thought, as a minister of religion. So I can see why people turn to silver celebrants now. It was interesting.
Silver celebrants don't conduct services that are generally not religious based. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I mean they may include a prayer, maybe.
Yes,
but usually they're pretty secular.
See, the thing about it is, though, I mean, the person that's passed and whose funeral you're attending may not have had any religious associations, but you've really got to consider those that attend the funeral. There are those that do have religious beliefs, and some of them fairly deeply held as well. So you've got to include something for them if they're going to feel part of it, I would have thought. Yeah,
you're probably right. I mean, that's the old question of who a funeral's really for. Are they for the person who's gone, or are they for the persons who left behind?
Well, in my view, it's for the people that are left behind. Because, as I've so often said to my wife, don't be doing things at my funeral for what you think I might want, because I won't be caring. Do it for yourself, and for the rest of the family and all of that sort of stuff. But people who sort of, I don't know, they tend to want to make it their last hurrah. They want to control everything down to the last flower pot.
Yes, that's right.
I'm certainly not like that. I think, whatever you think's a fair thing. It's just I won't be caring.
You won't care.
No.
Well, you may be there watching. You may be. I know you don't believe it, but maybe. Who knows?
Look, it could be, but the problem is, if I am, I won't be able to come back and say I was wrong.
No, you won't. It's funny about that, isn't it? People, you don't come back.
No. Yeah. Well, there are some that believe you do. Some believe that this is just one of the many incarnations that you have.
Yeah, I'm
not sure I subscribe to that either. But hey, look, I'll definitely be wrong.
Well, we both could be wrong, but I don't think there's any evidence for it, and
no.
I can't see there even any logic in it really. No. How it could happen.
No.
It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. But as you said, a lot of people do believe it.
Yeah, they do, and base their life around it.
Yeah, that's right.
Afterlife and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
My wife is one of those people.
Right.
She's definitely very spiritual, and she believes in an afterlife.
Yep.
She believes in the spirit world and all that sort of stuff.
All right. Yep.
And we're still married.
Yes. Well, that'll pose a challenge, won't it? When it's awful to even talk about it, really. But let's say it's not you, but someone in your situation who wasn't a believer and their partner was. When the time came for the funeral, you'd be obliged really to honour their wishes, wouldn't you? To give them a religious funeral.
Well, once again, I'm a firm believer in the persons or people left behind. The funeral is for them. And look, if that's the way you want to remember that person and you want to include a religious element in it, or totally religious funeral or religion-based funeral, then I wouldn't have any problem with that, if that's what you want to do. But as I say, don't be doing it for me.
But what about the person who, so it's not you, it is
the people left behind, because they're the ones that have to grieve, aren't they, really? They're the ones that want to remember you in a particular way, or who want to remember you appropriately. That is to say, if you were a devout Catholic, well then my idea would be that, well, yes, if we want to remember you that way, then we've got to have a funeral that way.
Well, I'm one of those people who wants to control it. I want to have the full works when I go.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, I don't want any of this sort of half-baked stuff. I want mourning and weeping and gnashing of teeth and and black.
Okay. And
I don't want a happy time.
40 days, is that all right?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Yeah. At least 40 days, maybe more.
But, look, everyone's different, aren't they? I mean, just the differences of the way that you and I are talking about is testament to that, really. And but regardless of which way it goes, those that are left behind are the ones that have to grieve and your loss. There may be not many for me, that would grieve my loss. Some would just want to dance.
I'm sure that's not the case.
Some would just want to go down there and cheer, I'm sure. But look, but it is true, isn't it? It's largely the people that are left behind, surely.
Yeah, it is. But there's always a but in these things. It's interesting. My friend, when I was talking to him last time, before he died, obviously, he said that he wanted to see a minister of religion. He'd never been religious in his life, as far as I knew, because he was worried about death and he was worried about where he was going to end up, and he wanted to talk to somebody about it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I was actually at the hospital at the time, and I did arrange for a chaplain to come up and see him. So I don't actually know how that worked out.
Yeah.
Because we actually never got around to discussing it or what actually happened. But I was hoped it helped. And it was interesting because at the funeral it was said, it was just no religion in it at all. And it was said, oh, well, Ron didn't want, he was never religious. So, and none of his family are. So, we're having this sort of funeral, which is fine. But he was a bit religious. He did want some element of religion in when he went. So I thought it was a bit sad that there was no element of religion at all in the funeral. But then his family wouldn't have known that. He would have never have told them. He only told me because he knew that I was a believer. So the family, of course, not to be blamed anyway, but I just thought it was a bit sad. But that he hadn't even mentioned it to them, maybe.
That's one of the things that we talk to in another segment we do on the Sattler Files with Daniel McKeague from Perslow Funerals.
Right.
And he talks about the need to discuss with your family what your wishes are.
Yep.
And it's so important that they understand how you want your funeral, or even if you care if you have one, and that sort of thing. But it is important that if you do have particular things that you want to have said or done at your funeral, it's important to talk to your family and those that are going to be left behind.
Oh, yes.
And make sure they understand that, if that's what you want to do.
Well, it is very important because going into my own life here a bit again, when my brother died, he was only 51, he was terrified of dying. I think I've mentioned this before. He wouldn't discuss it, and he wouldn't discuss anything to do with the funeral, obviously. And so when the time came to plan his funeral, there was no idea of what he wanted. And because we're a Catholic family and he had been a Catholic even though lapsed Catholic, I must admit I did take charge. I just said, right, we're going to do the Catholic bit. We're not going to have a full funeral mass, but we're going to have a priest and we're going to do the Catholic bit.
Yep.
And that did cause problems because his children, who are old enough to have a say, stepped in and said, well, we don't want that. And how do you know that's what he wanted? And we don't want you to do this. We don't want you to take charge. And fortunately, his wife said to them, well, we don't know what Tony wanted, so we are going to give him what we think maybe he might have wanted.
Okay.
In the end. And so everyone was agreed that I just did it.
Fair enough. But that just highlights the importance, doesn't it?
It does.
Of there are those like myself who don't really have any particular wishes about how I'm dealt with when the time comes, and there are those who have very definite ideas about the way that their funeral service should be conducted and what should be said and what should be done. Yeah,
I remember John Shepherd, who used to be the Dean of St George's Cathedral in Perth. He actually had a system of, he had a whole system of files, funeral files.
Is that right?
Yeah, people who had put down in what they wanted and it was filed away. So when they went to God, then it was all there, which was probably a good idea.
Well, it probably is. I'm just interested, just purely from a spiritual point of view, why people see the need to direct that, you know. They're not going to be there to see the results.
Well, they think they are, you see.
Oh, is that what it is?
Well, part of it, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, I go along with that because quite a few of the funerals I've been to, I've actually felt really the presence of the person. And in the case of people I've been close to, I've felt that presence of that person for about 2 or 3 days afterwards. And this may just be my Irish superstitious background. It probably is. But I definitely think that they're there and they haven't yet gone. And then suddenly I feel they have gone, and it's a big, huge
Is that right?
gap between them, and they've gone somewhere far, far away in my feeling.
Okay. Because one of the things that, and it's the only time I've ever experienced it, was we went to Tasmania and we visited the Port Arthur massacre scene.
Oh, yes.
And at the Broad Arrow Cafe down there, and there's a little memorial thing with all the names of the people that were killed there.
Right.
And it's the only time that I've really felt a great weight, or it's kind of hard to describe what the feeling was, but there was this pall came over me, and I really didn't like what I was feeling, and I needed to move away from it. But, and I don't know. My wife reckons that that the souls are still around, and they haven't moved.
Right.
Now I don't know whether that's true or whether that's an explanation, or whether it's just that my imagination was running around thinking about the scene on the day. It's really hard for me to know, but I do know that when I did move away from it, that feeling of weight or this pall left me.
Left you, yeah. Well, I've been to Port Arthur as well, and I didn't go to the cafe site. I don't even know why now. But the whole place, I felt that pall over me as well.
It's all right.
Yeah, because it's a very spooky place, I think, Port Arthur. Some terrible things happened there. And the more you get to hear about them.
Yeah, over a lot of years, back when it was a penal colony.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that legacy somehow hangs around. It was just a terrible, terrible place to be. And I think it still is. So I can understand that if you went to the cafe, it'd be even more intensified because, we all know what happened there, and it just must have been awful.
It must have been. So, look, I'm prepared to just accept that. I don't really try and explain what it was or what it is. I just accept it. That's the way I felt at the time.
Yep, I think that's good.
But as for directing what happens, I may be there, but I may not.
You may not.
I'll see if I can smash a vase or something and let people know that I'm around.
Well, this is superstition probably, but the day after my mother died, she left me her wedding ring, and it was a little bit big for my finger. So I thought, well, I'm going to wear it anyway. I won't lose it. But I went down to the local shops, and of course it came off my hand somewhere in that shop. And I got home and I thought, oh no, this is just awful. And just so I was doing that, I thought, I'll give them a ring just to see maybe it's turned up. And they said, yes, it's here.
Wow.
Someone has just handed it in.
Wow.
So I thought,
remarkable.
She's there, she's looked after this for me.
Yes, yeah.
So there's those sorts of things that happen, and they may just be coincidence, they may, who knows what. But I suppose if you're inclined to believe it, you'll believe it anyway. And all these things just bear out what you believe.
I think so. And look, my wife's sister is also of the same sort of belief that my wife is. And she regularly claims that she gets visits from various family members. They just appear and all that sort of stuff. And look, while I'm not a believer, I don't dismiss it either.
No, I don't think you can dismiss it. No. My mum was a great one for those visitors from the dead as well. She used to have these dreams where people would come to her from the dead, people she knew well. But I thought, well, maybe she'll visit us, but she never has. So I don't know what happened there.
Well, once again, I just don't think you can, in all seriousness, you can't just dismiss it and say that's absolute rubbish, you're hallucinating, and check the level in the sherry bottle.
Exactly. That's right. No, I don't think you can do that. But, one day we'll all find out, or we won't find out, I suppose.
Yeah, but the sad thing is we can't get the message back. But, you know, in Jan's case, her father died when she was 18. He was killed in an aeroplane accident. And her sister claims regularly to see dead people, like that little chap in the movie.
Oh, Sixth Sense?
The Sixth Sense, I think it was called. Yeah, I see dead people. And look, you know, sometimes art imitates life, doesn't it? And so once again, I can't dismiss it.
No,
although I have my beliefs or non-beliefs, as it were. I think I'm not that steadfast that I could not be persuaded otherwise.
Yeah, I think there's something really deep inside us that tends to make us believe those things, or you know, it leaves you at least open to the possibility. I mean, otherwise, why? How do you explain the success of movies like Ghost, even though it was a fabulous love story and all of that?
Yeah,
but so, you know, nonsensical in a way.
Yeah.
There's all that happening there, all the supernatural stuff. But, but it's just, you know, it obviously strikes a chord in a lot of people.
Sure, it was very popular film,
absolutely.
Wasn't it? Yeah. And we all know the special scene with Demi Moore and the pottery scene. And all that sort of stuff. That young boys just love that.
The musical's coming to Perth.
Yes, apparently so.
I was already here. Right.
But the thing is that there's an old saying, isn't there? That, you know, no atheist in a foxhole.
No, that's right. Exactly.
You know? So, look, I don't know. This is just one of those things. But in grieving, I've been to a number of funerals, and like you, there's only been a couple that have really touched me and affected me, and I understand that. And it was somebody that I hadn't known for a long time. Now there's something, you know, that Despine knows the person, Brenda Farmer. Remember Brenda? She died of a brain aneurysm, and she was 31 or something like that. And we'd worked together for just a very short space of time, but her funeral really touched me.
Yeah, well,
and it was a tragic thing, and that's probably the funeral that's affected me most. I've lost my father and my grandparents and all of that sort of stuff, and none of them affected me the way this one did.
Maybe partly because of the age. I mean, at 31, it's
possibly the age. Yeah, that would be something, and just so untimely. You know, it was just one of those things that really cut home. You know, and but yeah, so who knows?
Well, I hope you're not going to have one of those funerals where it's totally unstructured, where people just do what they want. I mean, I hate those. I went to one and there was no organiser, there was no one in charge. There was just one person who sort of got up and said, well, anybody now who wants to come and say a few words, you're welcome. And so this procession of people got up and raved on the most boring things.
No.
It was dreadful.
It's got to be structured. And one of the things that people are tending to do now, so Daniel tells us, is that people are doing their own eulogies, if you like.
Really?
Well, not so much a eulogy, because that just means it to me has a connotation of saying all nice things about people. But some people are absolute unnice people. But a lot of people are telling their life story, if you like, and telling the bits that they want to be remembered by and that sort of stuff. They can do it just as an audio thing or a whole television production type thing, and telling their own story. So
now, you see, I think that's a bit too much control from the grave.
You think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
No, I don't think. I don't want to go and listen to someone tell me about their life. I want to hear someone else tell me. I don't want to hear this and them say it.
But that is apparently, something that is happening now. It changes an awful lot. What about not going to somebody's funeral?
Not going.
So
why would you not go, I wonder?
Well, because you were once, let's say that you knew them once and you did have, like yours, an up and down friendship, but it ended badly. And
this one didn't end badly.
No. But let's suppose that.
I suppose it did.
In this example, it ended badly, and you just had no respect left for them or anything like that. Do you not go just because of that, or what compels people to go to funerals?
I suppose it's a bit like it is a way of. I mean, it's the last chance you're going to get to do something for this person, pay your respects. And I think a lot of people think they owe it to the family maybe as well, as much as to the person.
Those left behind. That's a point.
Yeah. I personally wouldn't go to a funeral if I thought the person, if I just didn't like, well, there was some reason like that, I wouldn't go, I don't think, because I'd feel a bit of a hypocrite. But on the other hand, you would think maybe you shouldn't hold grudges against the dead, or that sort of thing. Speak ill of the dead.
Yes, well, that's a bit of a superstition as well.
It is. Yeah.
Because let's face it, there's no shame in truth.
No.
Providing it is true.
No, in fact, in this funeral yesterday, my friend's son, he wrote it down. He didn't actually speak it. The celebrant spoke it for him, but it was a very good summary of the person. And he actually put in some of the things that how he would argue the point and drive people crazy and all of this. And I thought that was good. That was an honest way of doing it. But I mean, you do get a bit sick of the sugar-coated eulogies where the person was the most wonderful person in the whole world ever.
That's right, yes.
Well, obviously they weren't.
Certainly not. But yes, there are people that have some sort of not a standard is not the word I'm looking for, but some sort of benchmark about going to funerals. And let's face it, as we all age, we're going to be going to more of them.
I know, yeah.
And that's disturbing in itself in
Yes, it
many
is.
ways. But I mean, I suppose you have to judge whether or not you were very close to them or their family and that sort of thing, whether you were part of a group. Everybody's got different reasons and everybody's got different criteria by which they judge the need or otherwise to go to a funeral and grieve.
Yeah, again, I think you're right in a way in that it is for the living in many ways, because I remember going to Mum and Dad's funerals, and I was quite touched by the people who came for my sake. I mean, that sounds a bit selfish, I suppose, but I was.
No, I think that's a perfectly valid reason to go to a funeral, to be honest. Look, I've been to funerals just because I wanted to be with my friend and support him.
Right, yes.
And in his time of grief, not necessarily for the person that had passed.
No.
But I was supporting my friend.
And that's a very good reason to go as well.
Yeah. But just to go, I mean, some people go to funerals because it's a bit like a hobby. I mean, there are those around, don't you think?
Well, there's one at one funeral that I was a bit surprised they turned up, and someone said, they go to anything because it's a bit of an outing for them.
That's right. They'd go to the opening of an envelope.
That's right. And they get to have a bit of cake and a biscuit. So,
that's right.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
And that's right, exactly. Although I have noticed lately at funerals, you used to have the tradition of having the cup of tea and the biscuit at the actual crematorium or wherever it is.
Yes.
That seems to be sort of going away a bit now.
Is that right?
Yeah. Although people still have wakes, obviously, and they invite people back to the wakes.
Back to a place for a wake. They can be a lot of fun, but they can get a bit untidy.
Oh, they can indeed.
And that's something that you've got to have a bit of common sense there and know when to go.
Yes.
But yes, and a burial's still something that most people I know seem to, or funerals I've been to have almost always been. Actually, they've all been cremations. Thank you. A burial's still something that a lot of people do.
I think cremations are the way to go now. Although I think the Greeks have a preference, Desmond. Only burial, I thought so. Yeah, I think some of those more traditional cultures and religions, the Orthodox, for example, probably would favour burials. And it used to be the Catholic stance too. It was considered a terrible thing to be cremated. It's only relatively recently that's changed. But I hate burials. I think I'd rather go to a cremation than a burial.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'm always terrified that, especially for myself, that person may not be dead down there.
I'll just keep a mobile phone with you at all times.
Exactly.
And ring up if you don't think you should be there.
Yeah. Well, that's my big nightmare, being buried alive. So that's why I definitely have a cremation. Rather be burnt alive than buried.
Well, yeah, I suppose that's right. It is the most ecologically friendly way to go, is to be burnt, notwithstanding the gas that they use. It's not getting into a funny area, aren't we?
We are a bit, yeah. But have you seen those pods where people get buried and turn into trees?
Yes, I have. Yes.
That's quite a good thought.
I think that's a great idea because we definitely do need more trees, and the fertiliser's pretty good. And,
I think it says
better than being put under the lemon tree.
Yeah, we do with our pets. I think it's the Muslims who bury very quickly, and so the Jewish, I think, very quickly. And the Muslims, they just bury in a shroud, I think. There's no coffin from memory.
No. Well, of course, you don't have to have a coffin either.
No, I suppose not. I've never thought about that.
No, you don't have to.
Yeah.
And some of them have, once again, they have the good-looking coffin.
Yeah.
But when you're buried, it's buried in, a ecologically friendly cardboard.
Oh, right. Okay.
And they don't bury the coffin.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Well, I think it is. And you rent. Actually, this is serious. They rent the coffin. Really? You just rent it. You don't buy it.
Right.
Multi-use. And look, once again, ecologically, that's really the best way to go.
That's right. Well, because when I don't know if they've ever actually arranged a funeral, but when you do, and the funeral director comes and sees you, you really feel under a huge amount of pressure not to get the cheapest box that's on offer.
Yes.
You kind of I think most tend to go midway, I guess, and get the But
once again, in a practical sense, don't be putting me in a coffin that's fancy and got gold bars on it and all that sort of stuff. I mean, what's the point?
What's the point? Yeah.
It's all for show.
Yeah.
And once again, generally the coffin doesn't get buried. It can be. I mean, it's not the rule, but generally they take you out and put you in a cardboard box.
Yeah.
That breaks down quickly.
Yeah, I know one person who had a funeral for their husband and barred everyone from coming but herself, even including the sons and daughters of the person. Her own children were not allowed to go to the funeral. I know that's extreme, I thought.
Well, it is, but do you think that as part of your funeral arrangements, if there was somebody that you really didn't like, could you ask that they not turn up? Is that a valid approach?
I don't know. I think I'd take anyone who bothered to come.
But see, once again, depending on your perspective on these things, who knows? I mean, you're not going to know whether.
Well, my position is that you do know. So.
Yes, I suppose that's right. I guess that's right. But once again, if people turn up, that's a bargain, that's a bonus. If they don't, well, then I really know how they feel.
Well, that's true, I suppose, yes. Exactly.
But it's, look, we joke about it a lot, but it really is for those, in my opinion, those left behind, that's really the thing, because they do have to grieve and they do want to remember. And as Daniel McKee has pointed out, it's a grieving process that must be gone through. To whatever depth, is appropriate for you. But as he says, if you don't, it'll catch up with you eventually.
It will.
It will come out. You might be able to suppress it, but it will come out in the fullness of time.
Yeah, a bit like sex, I suppose.
Well, yes, I suppose it does, if you think about that way. But, so, look, once again, we're at this stage where there's so many people who have wide and varied views on these sorts of things, and I think it's a very personal thing in terms of how you want to be treated in death. Look, you have to be treated, in my opinion, you have to be treated respectfully. I mean, you've had the body for as long as, however it is, 60, 80, 90, whatever it is. And as long as it's treated with respect, then I think you can do what you like. Burn me or whatever. But I think that's the thing, that if there was anything that I did want, it would be that my remains are treated with some respect.
Absolutely.
And not put on public display for all people to laugh at. God, you can see why he died. That sort of stuff. We make light of it, of a serious thing, but as we said at the start of this, Gavin, everybody's going to go through it. Everybody will come to that, because none of us get out of this alive. And it's going to be something we all face.
Yeah, and I suppose going to a funeral makes you face that fact.
Of your own mortality? Indeed it does, every time. Every time it does, doesn't it? So
yes, this is what it's all going to get down to.
That'll be me, eventually. Gavin, thank you so much for spending some time with us today talking nonsense about funerals and things like that. It's been fantastic.
It's been fun.
And we'll hopefully catch up with you again really soon. More on the Sattler Files shortly.
This is Sattler Files.
DevWright Homes, when you're looking for attention to detail and a uniquely designed home to suit all your needs. At DevWright Homes, we only build a limited number of homes per year, so we can truly focus on what you want out of a prestige home builder. We've continually won awards for excellence, with a record number of wins last year and the proud winner of the Australian Townhouse Villa of the Year. While we love building homes to suit each client, we pride ourselves on designing homes that take into account the special safety needs of some of our clients. If you have a dream, we can make it come true. Talk to Jay Mangano and find out more about DevWright Homes at www.devwright.com.au.
You need banking services of any type. Secure Force Protective Services run a cash and transit service here in Perth. From as little as $25, why risk your employees travelling to the bank when Secure Force can do it for you? Give us a call at 9440-5011.
You only ever want the best for your family, and no one understands this better than the caring ladies at Marina Perslow and Associates. That's why we offer Australia's leading prepaid funeral plan. It means your family won't be left with the added strain of organising your funeral, and everything will be taken care of, all the little details. Your family will have the support they need with a woman's touch and gentle understanding. So leave them with loving memories and leave the rest to us. Visit marinaperslowfunerals.com.au or phone 9388 1623.
I'm John Hughes. If you want a hassle-free, very enjoyable and happy experience when buying your next vehicle, come to me in Victoria Park. I personally train all my salespeople to be non-pushy, friendly and professional, and we always strive to provide first-class before and after-sales service to all of my customers. So choose your dealer before you choose your car. That's John Hughes in Victoria Park, your car buying destination. DL 6061.
This is the Sattler Files.